Congratulations, Joseph Biden Jr., the 46th president of the United States. How exciting. Today, we're going to be focusing on what is happening in D.C. this very moment and talk to AAHOA and a general manager who's on the ground as we speak. Thanks for watching.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Congratulations, President Biden. We're absolutely excited and delighted to start a brand new administration. Once every 4 or 8 years, we get this opportunity. So it's an extremely special day. As you probably can tell right now, Anthony is not here. In journalism parlance, we call that he is on assignment doing something very mysterious. I would like to thank the good folks over at Best Buy today. Best Buy Hospitality is your place to do business. Make sure you check them out at bestbuy.com/hospitality. Why? Because they are there to help you with that geek squad. That's right, those geeks. They do amazing things. They've helped me. They hung the TV in my house. They can certainly do the same for you in your hotel. Up to 300 of those bad boys every single day. They'll even take away the old ones. Make sure to check out bestbuy.com/hospitality. Also, we're doing the fundraiser for these pineapple soaps. Go check them out. Bigham Bathhouse has got them. BighamBathhouse.com. BighamBathhouse.com. All the percentage of the proceeds will go to help Anthony's Hospitality Strong initiative. So please check that out when you have a chance. Okay. I also wanted to mention that as of today, they posted the Crisis Averted podcast. Please check that out. Our friend CJ Arlotta, who does public relations in the hospitality business, started a podcast where he talks to folks about all the struggles that they've faced and the victories that they've had in their life. My episode came out today, and in it, I made sure I tried to be extremely honest and open. What I try to do here every single day on this particular show. I talked about some of my successes, but more importantly, some of the most significant failures I've had in my life, what that did to me emotionally, and how I managed to come back. And no, the answer is not just bury all of my feelings so I don't have to feel them anymore and lash out at my family. No, I confronted these things head on. All right. I want to thank you guys for watching. And let's bring on the incredible Cecil, CEO of AAHOA, and Biran Patel, current chairman of AAHOA. Gentlemen, I got to tell you, I am so honored that you could be sitting and watching what's going on right now in our amazing country, but you chose to be here today. So thank you so much for both of you for being here.
Well, thanks, Glenn. It's great to be with you. And what's wrong with Anthony? Did he hear we were coming and decided there was something more important he had to do?
There's nothing more important than being here today. It was a little family thing, I believe. I don't know. I've got to get to the bottom of this mystery. Biran, maybe you have an idea of where Anthony is today. Maybe he snuck down to D.C. and is checking things out. I don't know. Maybe he's sitting in bed eating vegan ice cream. I don't know. But Biran, let me ask you this question. What are you feeling right now, right at this moment, as just as 5 minutes ago, Mr. Biden became President Biden?
Yes, I was watching this before getting on with you, Glenn. Thank you for the opportunity again. It's been a while since I've seen you. I see that you've grown your hair out even longer. Good to see. But yeah, to your question, as I was watching the inauguration, I feel optimism, right? We finally have made the transition. That was eventually going to happen. And as we are moving forward to the new chapter in the next 4 years, all we have to do, what we've gone through and endured the last year, we have nothing else but to look forward to optimism and hopefully an upward trajectory. As you all know, the vaccine has been rolled out. I think that if the distribution is going forward where most of the people in our country get access to it, then the optimism is even greater. And so I'm hoping that, the distribution of the vaccine is sooner than later, and that so that we can move on with our lives in the way we were pre-COVID.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears. I hope so. Cecil, same question to you. It's a really important day here in the United States of America. What are you thinking about right now? What does a transition of power in a peaceful way that happened today mean to you, not just as the CEO of an association, but as an American?
Well, Glenn, I'm a former elected official. I ran for office 5 times and was elected in the state of Georgia. So I must tell you, these kinds of occasions with all the ceremony and pomp and circumstance, we refer to it as, it really is a meaningful time to me. And it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you may be on. The fact that in this country, we go through this every 4 or 8 years, it's a very symbolic thing. It's a very meaningful thing. And I hope all Americans today will take a moment and be grateful for what we have in this country. We should never take it for granted, but it is an incredibly meaningful and moving experience. And it does signal a new beginning for our country. There will be new emphases. There will be things that will get attention that will perhaps be different from the last 4 years, obviously.
Right.
And so, we'll just look forward to that optimism and know that, we will be working with this new administration. We will be working with all of the new members of Congress and those who are returning for this session of Congress to make sure that the interests of our industry and hoteliers are front and center.
So I'm curious as to what you're thinking about now, and I do want to get back to the vaccine in a minute. But when the administration's changed, you need to really refocus what you're going to be doing as an organization that is out there lobbying for the benefit of people within the hospitality industry. What is that process like, gentlemen? What is it like for you then what is your plan? How does all of that work? How do you move from talking to officials within the Trump administration to making sure folks within the Biden administration understand how important it is to keep their eyes on taking care of people in the hotel business at this very particular moment in time?
Well, Glenn, it won't surprise you to know that even in the run up to the election, we were having conversations on literally a daily basis with members of both the Trump administration as well as the potential Biden administration that obviously was elected. And so we didn't leave it to chance or wait around. We were introducing ourselves. We were introducing AAHOA, and we were making sure they understood the peculiar needs and challenges of our industry at this particular moment for our economy. So that work is really ongoing, and we've already started having meetings with new members of the Senate and House. I've been a part of some of those meetings. And so we take collectively what we learn from our officers. Biran is doing a great job as our chair, giving leadership to our board. We listen to them. We'll have a call with our board literally this afternoon to talk about government affairs issues. We take what we learn. We take what we're hearing from our members, and we're constantly evolving the message. But ultimately, the message is about the impact of our industry on the economy of our country, the fact that our industry has been disproportionately harmed because of the pandemic, and the challenges we're facing and how government policy, whether it is in things like the PPP loan program, where we were fortunately able to get 3.5 times as a multiplier for our industry as opposed to 2.5 times the multiplier in the earliest stages of the PPP, all the way to talking about what our government needs to do ultimately with the success of the vaccine to help get the travel industry moving again by encouraging people and helping us get to that point where we can get things moving quickly again. So all of this is an ongoing thing that we're engaged in literally every day.
Right. So let's talk about that vaccine for a minute. And then I've got some other issues I want to talk to you about. President Biden has encouraged us to do 100 million doses in 100 days. That's his goal. If he is able to achieve that particular goal, how do you think that's going to affect the stability and health of the hotel business? Biran?
Yeah, so I think that if he can implement the plan that he states that he's going to do, number one thing that I think happens, it builds consumer confidence. Mm-hmm. And when you build consumer confidence, that helps our industry out significantly. Once that confidence is built amongst the consumers, amongst our employees, then I think that we see an upward trajectory and the road to recovery sooner than later. Until we get that consumer confidence back and travel starts becoming what it was pre-COVID, we're still going to be somewhere to the numbers that we're at right now. But I think that the vaccine, as I mentioned earlier, is a key, and the distribution that President Biden is claiming that he can do, that would be significant boost to our industry as hoteliers.
Right. I sure hope he is able to achieve that goal. Out of all the goals, this is one that I think everybody in the country could really agree on him hoping to achieve. So with that in mind, the one issue that I think about with the vaccines is right now, like essential workers are getting it. A lot of the older folks in our country are getting it. So do you think that there's going to be an immediate effect, or will we have to wait for later on after the first groups of people get it, the groups of people that may not necessarily be going and traveling immediately? Any thoughts on that, Mr. Stanton?
Well, it's obviously a frustrating thing for many people who want to take the vaccine. They want to do it as quickly as possible. To hear the stories that I think we're hearing here in Georgia, and I think it's generally true across the country, that some of the initial supplies, they've already run out. And so I do think getting a handle on distribution, getting them where they need to be in a timely basis, dealing with really a healthcare worker shortage as well in some states where there really aren't the people to help accelerate the vaccinations of millions of people. Dealing with all of that is very important that the government take the leadership. Most states are following CDC guidelines in terms of who can get it, when they can get it. We, of course, have been advocating for hospitality workers to be considered in the rollout of the vaccines across the country. And a lot of that has had to be done at the state level. But I think Biran is absolutely correct. The more this is out there, the more people feel confidence, the faster it's going to have an impact on the recovery of our industry. Right. And so we are encouraged by President Biden's statements and what he is talking about in his $1.9 trillion economic stimulus plan, that there is a significant amount of money allocated to get those 100 million doses out there and disseminated. And I think probably that has to be the most important thing that Congress works on at this particular moment.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like saying President Biden is kind of like how I continue to write 2020 on checks for the first few days of the year. I'm still getting used to it. It's really new. But Biran, Cecil was talking about new members of Congress. I'd like to learn a little bit about what that process is, those first meetings that you have with them, educating them about the hospitality industry, how our incredible business functions, and what lessons that you hope they take away with them when you meet with them that initial time.
Well, as you mentioned, that educating them is key, right? I think it starts not only on the federal level, but on the local level, state level, and federal level, where anyone who's come into office now, educating, letting them know what our industry is about as small business owners are, and just our story as the hospitality industry. And what I've seen success through not only AAHOA, but our industry as a whole, from even other associations, is when we talk to elected officials and let them know what our industry is going through as small business owners and what we need as an industry to get back to pre-COVID, they kind of get it right now. Obviously, it's not as easier said than it's easier said than done, where the things that we want implemented might take a little longer because of the process. But getting our voices out there is key. Like I said, from the local level, state level, and federal level, it's letting them hear what we're going through, what our industry is about, how it's affecting our bottom lines and the livelihood of not just hotel owners, but everyone as human beings.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what's really most important. Okay. So I know that we know that you work very closely with the American Hotel and Lodging Association. And, Chip Rogers is a good friend of all of ours and an incredible friend for the industry. They just put out a statement. I'd love to hear what you have to say in regards to it. 3-paragraph statement. The first paragraph is congratulating them, but it's the second paragraph that's most important. As an industry, we continue to face historically low occupancy rates, massive job loss, and record hotel closures. Our industry needs to help retain and rehire our associates, revive our local communities, and restart our economy. While the vaccine rollout has begun, it will likely take months to widely distribute, and travel is not expected to return to 2019 levels in 2023. We urge Congress and the new administration to come together on a long-term stimulus package that will ensure our industry survives so that the women and men who are the backbone and the heart of hospitality can get back to work and unleash the power of the American dream. Now, Cecil, I know you completely agree with that particular sentiment. So we don't have to talk about that. What to you would be the next step that would be meaningful to helping out those associates and those small business owners as they continue to deal with a crisis that is much more prolonged than all of us thought last March?
Well, this is absolutely the critical issue for our industry because no part of our economy has been harmed to the extent of hospitality and obviously hotels in particular. We're still looking at unemployment rates as high as 20%, whereas the overall economy, unemployment has fallen dramatically, and it's back now in the 7-8% range. So no industry is still where we are. For that reason, I really know that many of us will be advocating with the Biden administration for some very special help for our industry. We're grateful for the PPP. It's been very helpful, but we need other kinds of support through the SBA, through the Fed. We need loan programs at very low interest in order to help some of our members replace perhaps loans that have very or much higher interest with loans that will help them manage the process. Look, one of the things Biden is pushing has to do with helping local governments. Well, here's a way he could help our industry. That plan could help our industry. They will provide to local governments a bridge that will allow them to give hoteliers some forbearance on their property taxes. If you look at the budgets of hoteliers, one of the big things right after payroll and right after your mortgage payments is going to come down to things like those property taxes that you pay on that real estate. If they could provide some support to local governments that would give us some forbearance, all of these kinds of things would add up to help hoteliers hold on. You have said something very important. Depending upon the segment across our industry, it is going to likely be 23, maybe 2024 before we see a full return to pre-pandemic numbers. So look, here's a very interesting point. Go to any member of Congress. You're not going to find a member of Congress that doesn't have hotels in his or her district. It doesn't exist in the United States of America. So our influence upon local economies, upon local governments, upon state government, it is so enormous. And that's why, Glenn, at the end of the day, it's so important. We encourage our members and everyone in our industry to make sure they know their local member of Congress, their member of Congress, their U.S. senators. We have to make sure every one of them is aware, because even if the Biden administration agrees with us on some of these initiatives, it's going to take Congress passing that legislation to make it happen.
Right. So, Biran, let me ask you this question then. Congress is now, the House is on the Democratic side. The White House is on the Democratic side. There's a tie in the Senate, but with Vice President Harris in position now, she could break all of those ties. How does that change the way you folks are thinking about getting the needs of the hotelier community taken care of? Is it a positive? Is it a negative? Does it make things easier? Is it more complex? How do you see it?
I think it can go both ways, and the jury's not out on it obviously yet, right? But I think, as Cecil mentioned earlier,
Biran, come on.
As Cecil mentioned earlier, that we've already been in communications with his administration prior to today, and they know our story, they know our struggles. So, and from what they're telling us, that they understand. So hopefully they can implement our asks, right? And now that it's the House and the Senate is really tight, I don't think that anything can get passed that easily, right? So I think there might be some things that might take a while to get passed, and that might prolong some of our initiatives. But long as they don't pass something that really hurts our industry, and hopefully it gets us in the right direction, it's better something sooner than later. But I think that some of this is going to, the pessimistic side of me says that it might take longer to implement than sooner. But I'm hopeful that from what they're telling us in our dialogues with them, that they understand what's going on in our industry, they know what we're going through, that they will, take a lead on this.
So to draw like I'll just throw a wide assumption out there. Typically, the folks on the Democratic side of the aisle are more willing to spend, and the folks on the Republican side of the aisle are more conservative when it comes to spending issues. Do you feel that is going to be the case going forward in helping you achieve your goals? And in this particular case, is it helpful? Or conversely, if there was a new Republican administration coming in, would they still understand the depth and severity of this situation? Cecil?
Well, look, it's a mixed bag, Glenn.
Right.
As Biran was saying, the margins are tight, frankly, in the House and the Senate.
Right.
And so it will take some compromise to get major legislation passed. But in terms of the mixed bag, yeah, I think the Biden administration is probably going to be a little more aggressive in terms of spending. And so there may be a silver lining in that for our industry. It may be that we will get more resources available more quickly because of that. On the other hand, there are going to be some other challenges for us, and I'll give you one example.
Yes.
I think in President Biden's initial plan, there is a nationwide or a universal $15 an hour minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, in some parts of the country, that is already in place. If you go to California or maybe a few other states, but that will have a huge negative impact upon our industry in many areas of the country when just as we're trying to pull ourselves up from this crisis and get out of it financially, we're going to have an additional burden when it comes to the costs for our workforce. So it's going to be a mixed bag. And that's one of the great aspects of advocacy. And I've been involved in one way or another for so many years. You have to be able to talk about all of these issues at the same time. Yes, we want the help for our industry, but we also need to make sure that they understand the importance of the costs of employees. They understand things like liability protection and the importance of that, which has not always been a long suit for Democrats, and so many other issues that impact us. And we've got our work cut out for us, Glenn. It's not going to be easy, and either way it goes, it presents challenges, and we just have to rise to the occasion to address those challenges.
That's definitely right. And one of the things I've been seeing with members of the AAHOA community is they are concerned about this $15 minimum wage. Now, perhaps because the cost of living in New York and San Francisco is so high, it might make sense, and the economics of it might make sense, but you're absolutely right. The business owner side of me, if I had a place in Kansas, in the middle of Kansas, in a tertiary market, the expenses of an employee aren't necessarily the same as they are in San Francisco. So it's tough, but it's also tough, Biran, for you guys to say we don't want this because there could be a negative connotation that feels like it's anti-worker for the folks that are in the hotels. How do you balance those needs to meet the needs of owners so they can keep employing these people, but making sure that the people that are working in the hotels are paid a wage that they can continue to survive? I mean, it's really, this is why I'm not in a political party, right? Because I see things from both angles. I got the bleeding heart liberal part of me, give them all the money. And then I got the business owner side of me with like, that's going to put me out of business. How do you find that sweet spot, the medium, to bring everybody together to maybe give them a little bit more money, but not put businesses in danger of being put out of business after what Cecil just said in regards to the fact that it's been the hardest financial challenge of the history of the hotel business?
So yeah, I think it's a slippery slope, right? Yeah. I think that, there has to be some kind of compromise. I think $15 is too big of a jump at one, at this time, especially what we're going through. I think that there's some so here in Texas, obviously minimum wage is under $10, right? And if it was to get to $15, that would cripple us, right? I'll give you some examples. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, just to say 50% jump is huge.
Right. So I'll give you some examples. You would think that as unemployment is at 20% in our industry, we're still having wage wars, Glenn. I had some peers that I was talking to here in Dallas that we have line level employees like housekeepers saying that the hotel across the street is offering $2 more. And that puts us in a tough situation. This is what we were going through pre-COVID.
That's right.
As hoteliers, when unemployment was an all-time low, it was hard to find good help. And we were trying to retain all the employees we had. Now what's happening is that you have different industry segments. Let's say if I own an economy segment hotel, and then and I'm paying, let's say $10 an hour to a housekeeper, you have other higher industry segments of maybe mid scale or upper scale offering $13, $14 an hour. So it seems like we're always behind the 8 ball, regardless of what situation we're in. But I think back to government, I think that if we have an open discussion with them and tell them how this significant increase affects our bottom line and affects our livelihood, hopefully they understand. And so I'm not saying to keep it where it's at, but be fair on both sides of it.
Right, and that is tricky. Cecil, he said something I never thought of before. If you're theoretically own a luxury hotel and you're bringing in a lot more money per night, you might be able to afford to pay people. Conversely, if you're an economy hotel, that might put you at a disadvantage when it comes to that switching places for $2 an hour. So how do you think about that? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I think the real issue is ADR, isn't it? I mean, that is down across every segment. And so the reality is, even if we're seeing a little bit of recovery in occupancy rates, the recovery in ADR is going to take a much longer period of time. Look, here's the bottom line. One size doesn't fit all.
That's
And
right.
unfortunately, that's Washington think too often. It's political think too often. So let's just go ahead and raise it to $15 for everyone. What we really need is certainly flexibility. I don't think our industry wants to fight the issue of people needing a living wage. In fact, I think our industry has probably done a lot more than we realize on the whole to try to deal with that. But it's been at the local level. And I think that's the best way to resolve this. It's not something where a one size fits all. That may sound good. It may be great in a political soundbite, but economically, it can have a devastating impact.
Yeah, it sure can. And I think that's really interesting because we're not really talking about the reality of what's going on in the marketplace. It's really that perception. And when you talk politics, it's all perception that you put out there. I think we learned that in the last 4 years specifically. So, Biran, before we start to wind up, what's going on with your chairmanship? What are you thinking about these days? What is the next part of your tenure going to look like?
So, when we last spoke, I told you one of our goals was to try to navigate the road to recovery as best as possible for our membership and our industry. And, during 2020, we had to go to the virtual space, and our association has never taken the foot off the pedal. Before pre-COVID, we would probably be doing over 200 in-person events a year. This past year, we did over 200 webinars and webcasts and 80 virtual events. We still ended up having 8 regionals and a virtual annual conference. It was all new to us, right? But we pivoted to try to help our membership out and the industry out. Now, going forward, I think that as things start to open up, all of us can't wait to start, going back to in-person events. That's where the networking happens. That's where, a lot of interaction happens. And that's how our association has been built upon, right? So I think that as we start seeing more of these cases go down and more consumer confidence and conventions start opening up, I know a lot of our industry conferences have been pushed back to later this year. And as that starts opening up, I think that'll be better for all of us as hoteliers. For the remaining time of my tenure, I'm hoping that things open up sooner than later so we can get back to in-person events and educating our membership and industry even more than we have.
Wow. How are you dealing with these challenges? Because during your chairmanship, you're dealing with stuff that no other chairperson has ever dealt with. Sure, the immediate past chair, Jagruti Panwala, had to deal with some of it, but you're really dealing with the aftershock of it. So what are you thinking about every day? What are the last things that you think at night before you go to sleep to try to make sure that all of your constituents out there are being taken care of?
So, rightfully so from some of our membership, right? It's just natural that in a time like this, frustrations build up, right? And people, nobody's seen this before, right? We've been through 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, but this is something that nobody expected, anticipated, envisioned. And so, I take a deep breath, listen, and then kind of talk it over with our team and see how we can help our membership out. We're not going to get everything we want, right? With the snap of a finger. But if we can help as many hoteliers out during this time in some kind of way, whether it's through our brands, whether it's through advocacy, whether it's through our educational offerings. It's some kind of win. We have to come to, realization that we're not going to get everything that we want. But if we can at least check some of the boxes that can help us out in this crazy times, I think it's somewhat of a win.
Right. And Cecil, same for you when you took this position. Of course, you didn't have the crystal ball and you didn't see this coming. What has been, let's flip it from the biggest challenges. What have you seen as the biggest positives that are coming out of this? What are you thinking about to keep the spirit of hospitality alive with your entire community at AAHOA?
Well, you're absolutely correct. I just celebrated my first anniversary with AAHOA a few weeks ago. Certainly not the first year any one of us would have envisaged. But, look, we've risen to the challenge. I want to thank Biran for his leadership of our association. We have pivoted, to use his word earlier, in so many ways to step up to meet the needs of our members. In 2019, AAHOA served about 17,000 touch points, or 17,000 times our members came to us through our educational offerings. In 2020, we had over 50,000.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think the word, Glenn, for Biran's time and for this past year in particular is member engagement. Yeah, there have been a lot of frustrations, and we certainly understand that. But we have risen to the occasion through our educational offerings, through our communications, through our virtual events, through our advocacy with the brands and our advocacy in Washington, the impact we had on the CARES Act, on the first PPP, even on the second PPP program that's opened up now in the last few days. Our impact has been very significant. We're not always great at tooting our own horn. I would say AAHOA is a workhorse, not a show horse.
That's right.
And sometimes we're too busy doing it to step back and even see the forest for the trees and to see the impact that we are having. So this has been such a significant year. And I want to mention one other thing. We have just, our board, working hard across many months with Biran's leadership, we've just passed a wonderful strategic plan that will guide AAHOA over the next 3 years. And those will be years where we are moving into this recovery. And our vision statement for the plan is that AAHOA will be the foremost resource and advocate for America's hotel owners. That's our job. That's who we are. We'll never give up on that. And we're going to recommit ourselves to that mission each and every day as we move into 2021 and into the recovery for our industry. The word, my perception, is resilience. Mm-hmm. I am so inspired by the members of AAHOA, their passion, their willingness to dig deep, do whatever it takes. They're going to be there. They're going to hold on, the vast majority of them. And we want to be there every step of the way. As we like to say, the road to recovery runs through AAHOA. That's our commitment.
Beautiful. I love that. So Biran, let me ask you, you're dealing with a lot as chairman, but you also have a business to run. You have a business to save. You're struggling personally as a professional, as well as being chairman of this organization. How are you finding success to get through this, either emotionally or financially? And how are you balancing the crisis that you're facing in your personal life and running this organization?
So, our portfolio, Glenn, consists of economy segment, extended stay, and mid-scale, right? And so different markets, different hotels are performing differently. As you already know that, the economy segment, extended stay have stayed afloat during this time. We've obviously had a decline, but 50% is what we're running in those segments. The mid-scale select service, we're still doing poorly. We're still doing about 20%, 30%. And so definitely these bandages, as I call them, like the PPP and the stimulus, help us out for the short term to keep us going, especially this payroll, as Cecil mentioned, helps us out where, they increased it from 2.5 times to 3.5 times. It's definitely going to help us out. So definitely we're applying for the second round of PPP. And then, in the banking relief, definitely the deferment of mortgage payments or the banking forbearance. It depends on which asset we own. We try to make the most of what the government is helping us out with in these times. And then hopefully we can, ride this wave out to where, we can come out on the other side even better.
Excellent. I love it. Now, remember, everybody, AAHOA.com has resources that are available to the entire hospitality community. You can get access to those webinars and a lot of other programs. One of the things that we haven't focused on as much, because this crisis has been so overwhelming, is your commitment to preventing human trafficking and other issues in there. Before I let you go, gentlemen, maybe you want to say something about some of the other things that you're working on so we don't forget them completely.
Well, you're absolutely right. I'm proud of AAHOA's leadership in training hoteliers and their staff to be aware of the human trafficking situation and how it can be prevented, how we can deal with it and respond to it. We've had literally hundreds of people take our training in just the last 30, 45 days. And obviously this month is the month where we have focused on it. So I'm very proud of that. That work is ongoing. It never ends. It will not stop until we eradicate this scourge upon our country and certainly in some respects upon our industry. Our industry wants nothing to do with that, and we're going to make sure we do our part to end it. So many other great things going on. We're looking forward to AAHOACon later this year. As Biran said, we're looking forward to getting back into in-person events in the second half of 2021. And a lot more great educational offerings coming as well in the days to come. So it's exciting times at AAHOA.
Talk about exciting times. I'm very thrilled to be back as sorry, I don't know why we didn't switch there. I'm very thrilled to be back as the official podcast of AAHOACon 2021. So I'm looking so forward to being there with you folks in person in the same place, even if we have to stay a little bit physically distant. Biran, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Cecil's comments about, what we're doing as an association to help the membership and the industry out. In addition to human trafficking, the new norm is right now enhancing the cleanliness and sanitization for our hotels. So we've partnered with P&G to create a certification, and that's open to everyone, member, non-member, anyone, to make sure that we are building that consumer confidence up by making sure our hotels are following the cleanliness protocols and the sanitization protocols. So I urge everyone to take part of that also. And thank you again, Glenn, for the opportunity. And hopefully the next time I see you, we're in a better situation than we're even in now.
Dude, I hope that the next time we're not in a screen and we are in person. I miss you guys. I miss seeing you at events. I miss complaining about airline delays and bad coffee and all of that kind of stuff. So I can't wait to be there and get back to my full complaining self with all of you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing. We really appreciate all the hard work you do and help save our industry. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks.
Take care. All right, everybody. Coming up next, bringing him on right now, Mr. Mark Driscoll, the GM of the Hamilton Hotel. Every time I hear that name, I keep thinking there's a million things I haven't done, Mark Driscoll. How are you? Welcome to the show. I really appreciate you being here. Now, Mark Driscoll, as I said, is the GM of the Hamilton Hotel, located in Washington, D.C. Mark, incredible day. Not the type of inauguration day you typically expect to see. What is going on in your mind right now? You guys have been beset by punch after punch. What are you thinking about right now?
It's been a culmination. First of all, thank you for having me, Glenn, on the program.
You're doing great stuff down there.
We're on the corner of 14th and K, and as you said, it's not your grandfather's inauguration, right? Plans have changed. Obviously, being transparent with guests that were expecting inauguration to be much different was a priority, and I think over the long haul, how you manage in situations like this during the bad times really builds loyalty over the course of the good times. So, the hotel went from being sold out.
That's right.
With a expectation of a certain average rate and a certain guest coming in. Mm-hmm. That obviously changed primarily from the vibe given off on January 6th. Yep. From that point, it became very different. We are sold out, but we're sold out housing the National Guard, a bunch of media photographers, some media personalities of that extent. So happy to have those folks here, obviously important. in the security of the city, but different. And I'm sure a great learning experience, not only for myself, but my entire team.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're sold out, although I suspect it's not at the rate you were getting for this particular week. And it was a much needed bright spot for you. It was like that little bit of glow that you could have to say, oh, we have something to get us through. I do want to talk about the events of January 6th, but before we get to that, how are you keeping your spirits up? How are you keeping the spirits of your team up? Because I could imagine that you feel in some sense that you're almost getting to the finish line and then boom, you get knocked out again.
Sure. You know, no other year like it, right? I mean, you start out the year with COVID coming in March, and we have stayed open the entire time at the hotel, which we're very proud of, keeping people employed and even doing work from home programs to keep that alive, right? So we never downsized until June, but never closed for a day. Have been relatively free of any COVID incident. And, you know, guests have been understanding and actually quite flattering over the enforcement of the protocols in a hospitable way. You know, we're used to shaking hands, hugging our guests, welcoming our guests. And as a collective group, we've had to learn to do things differently. You know, we started off by simply coming up with the 10, what we call the COVID 10 commandments, how we wanted to practice hospitality in that light.
Fascinating.
And then moved along. But I think most of us, myself included, are happy to be contributing, happy to be working, and happy to keeping the hotel out there and exposed positively until the situation brightens.
So what are some of those commandments that you've been living by?
Well, respect the T-zone, which is, you know, not touching areas of your face. We're not allowed to shake hands with each other or with guests coming forward. Being supportive, so management is with the line level associates in the public space. So we're supporting their efforts when they're asking or reminding guests nicely to put on your mask, or you can't gather currently in DC in any room of groups larger than 10. So, you know, we've all learned to count better, I think, too, during the process, you know, so.
Well, until I lose a finger, I'm able to count till 10.
Yeah, I have my shoe off now, so.
All right. So I like what you're saying and you're living by it, but you're dealing with the challenges, you're dealing with guests, and the group of people that were with you on January 6th. I don't want to get involved in political persuasions and stuff like that, but that particular group of people doesn't seem to be taking the security and safety protocols as seriously as other groups might when it comes to the COVID crisis. That puts all of you folks at a defensive. How do you handle a group of people that were probably gathered with more than 10 in your lobby that were probably not choosing to wear masks? How, as a person who wants to spread the warmth of hospitality and love, make them follow directions when people don't want to follow directions?
Well, it's always been as a hotelier goal. It's always been a goal to keep your hotel de-cheesed, if you will, for lack of better word. No unnecessary signage, but in this day and age, it's very important to call attention to it. That crowd was well behaved up until the evening of the 6th, the late afternoon of the 6th. You know, people don't like being told what to do. We understand that. You ask nicely. It takes a lot of intestinal fortitude on the staff's behalf. In Washington, D.C., we're also a very diverse crowd, right? So all of a sudden, that comes into play. Our whole motto was be sensitive and sensible, but most of our guests did honor what was being asked. You could tell many didn't like it, but they did honor it. Now, the evening the 6th after that got much more rambunctious as guests. The curfew was called and guests weren't obviously allowed on the street. And the District 1 police officers here and the mayor, and again, not getting political, but just did a fantastic job. Because, you know, guest safety and associate safety is a priority, right? So you have to manage that on a continual basis. In my 30 years in the hotel business, through 4 inaugurations and that week leading up to it was probably the most tense day that I've ever worked. And,
that says something, Mark.
Yeah, reminding the staff after that. And commending them on what an effort, not only just to come to work, do so while working sensibly and sensitive in that manner. And I couldn't be more proud of them. And what's really interesting, we're always gauging ourselves on TripAdvisor scores and in measurables in that nature. And for a hotel to go through not only the COVID pandemic, but that week and be able to maintain or raise their scores is pretty amazing, right? So, we're host. When people ask me what I really do for a living, I'm a host.
Right.
And so proud to be that. But, we're learning to host differently. Our transparencies are maybe more honest than ever before. And looking forward to coming out of it. We're in the process of just building a $5 million entity, but our building is situated between the Washington. We're on the corner. Then there's a building that we've leased, and then there's the Washington Post. So we're building a transient space for group. You were just talking about the return to flying and group business. Little did we know that we'd be walking into this at the time, but we're really looking forward to when, it's safe again. And obviously the vaccine's developed. And, I really look at the potentials of June forward as being banner, right? Although people may not move back into the city because people have learned to work differently, whether they're going to incur the cost of, renting space in various buildings, but people are going to want to celebrate again. They're going to want to network again.
Right.
They may never shake hands again, but they'll all obviously be able to be a little more proximate than they have been of recent days.
At what point on January 6th did you realize that this was going to be the most challenging day of your career? And how did you handle not only yourself, but keeping your staff positive throughout that experience?
Well, I'm not always the biggest on organizations that are just networking events to promote the hotel. I'm interested in being part of something where we get a benefit, right? One of the benefits is our downtown bid, the business improvements district, really put together a great safety and security briefing with local police, U.S. Attorney's Office. So, we were schooled in how to identify certain groups coming in or not, looking at specific carriages if somebody was carrying guns or that sort of thing, different things to look for on perimeter walks. I mean, if you came outside of the front door of our hotel today, you would not see a garbage can in the city, right? Because something could be hitting or cause a dangerous circumstance. Outside of the doors, we are right at the perimeter of we're approximately 3.5-4 blocks away from the White House, but our perimeter is the first street that's outside of what they call the White House zone. So if you came to the corner of 14th and K right now, you would see the National Guard, you would see checkpoints, vehicle inspections, the whole 9 yards. So in the oddest of ways, for this particular time, we've probably never been more secure or safe.
Right.
On January 6th, we did not have that additional benefit.
Right.
But locking down doors so only guests could get in the hotel, honoring the curfew. One of the biggest things when all the guests came back that evening were, how do you feed them if your restaurants aren't open?
Yeah. Right. On any other day, you would have had any other year, I should say, you would have had the restaurants open and you may have been enjoying some extra, financial benefit from it.
So you're just accommodating and you make sure that your team is well versed in what is open and available, whether that's DoorDash or what local restaurants may be serving, and keeping the guest informed and, trying to control it. But I can tell you at one point in the evening, in the lobby, when a number of people were unmasked, I looked at one of the police officers and I said, is there any way I can get 2 other officers in here to assist? And he just looked at me and said, Mark, pick your battles, right? Let's keep this in. It was actually great advice. And then we followed that up with obviously monitoring our staff, right? Did anybody have symptoms? Did anything take place? Because, you want to talk about oddities in our business. We walk in to our backdoor security before we come to work and we're temperature checked. We actually sticker ourselves to show our guests that has been the case. So we followed those protocols and knock on wood, have had a very healthy environment in an environment that is consistently changing. But you know, that what's the old adage, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So hopefully that is the case.
Well, I guess, Mark, you're Superman at this point, right? So
I stand in front of the parade. I'm not the parade. So the supermen and women are actually the people that are getting it done every day.
Speaking of those men and women in your front lines, we're all different. We all have different political persuasions. This has been such a sensitive period of heightened craziness. How do you make sure that all your employees are heard, no matter how they feel about politics, and keep the peace in the workplace?
You know, I think if you are, specifically if you're in a front of house position in our industry, there's a certain makeup that you have anyway, right? Strength of people skills, for lack of better word, and you know, I think it just serves as a reminder we're not here to judge. You know, the other thing that we have to be cognizant of is, and look, DC is a great city. I think it is one city that has become progressively more beautiful year after year after year. And in that vein, we are also a city where your amendment rights tell you that you're allowed to protest. What's one of the reasons, in essence, that we're open, right? Somebody had asked me a question, you know, why did you stay open when other hotels have closed? Well, that's what we're here for. We're servicing a public. If we're going to say we're an essential business, it really did check that box as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, we need to be here for that. We don't get to pick and choose. We can't profile someone coming into our hotel. So your guest or your guest. And, you know, where we were fortunate on January 6th is that we didn't have competing factions in the hotel. I mean, I would love.
I laugh, but you're absolutely right. Better everybody be the same persuasion when it comes to politics.
I would love to hear a story of a hotel that had that, because that would have been an interesting learning experience, you know, because to me, it would have been Dodge City, right? And then, you know, I don't know. We've always felt like we were in control of our hotel at all times. You know, you can always lock it down if that's a need. You can always keep people out. I mean, you know, safety would have been the priority, obviously. The building came through it undamaged. No guests were hurt. And in fact, I was amazed at the number of guest letters we received complimenting the staff during the course of that time. So, you know, when you look, and you asked this very early, when you look for the good that came out of it all, you know, that's probably it. But I can tell you, it was not easy to put on that hospitality face for me alone, and for the staff to be able to do it. I feel so honored to work with them.
What's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself as a leader, either in the last 2 weeks or during the last year of this entire crisis?
You know, there's a quote that I often use because I am transparent as a leader, but Mark Twain said, "You're never wrong to do the right thing." And since March, we've really weighed the balance of revenue generation and economics to health and safety. To the point where we don't want an associate to come to this hotel that doesn't want to be here because they're either afraid to come, you know, during tense times, or, you know, they feel that their family are at risk. So you have open and honest conversations. I think HR probably has served as HR more than risk management, more than ever at this time, right? Because it really is getting people's feelings and, you know, coaching, you know, and we're doing meetings in an insensitive manner, right? We're doing them over Zoom as opposed to being in the same meeting room. And, you know, so you have to choose your words maybe more precisely and get the message out more quickly so you don't lose the interest of those people. You know, I would just say, you know, being supportive and leading by example, which are really like old, obvious methods, but really telling people what to expect and trying to plan for the worst and then hopefully getting the best.
Right. Absolutely. So I want to end on a more positive note. When you look back at the inaugurations that you've been in DC for, is there any particular memory that sticks out as a very positive moment in your career as an American?
You know, it's this would have been, or is, I guess, while it's not the normal inaugural, this would have been my 30-year career. I've spent 4 inaugurations in DC. President Obama's first inauguration was just utterly amazing. Yeah. And, you know, the market just blossomed, and the balls that we did were incredible, and getting to meet, you know, a variety of stars that, you know, you'd only meet perhaps at those times was amazing. But I can remember literally having to walk a guest one evening. And I'll never forget this.
Where did you walk him to, Virginia?
No, I actually walked him to Greenbelt, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And the person looked at me and said, "Mr. Driscoll, would you care to look at my address on the reservation?" And don't you know, she was from Greenbelt, Maryland. So, you know, it's but you know, it's all about how you turn that, right? And
True.
You know, it was like calling guests and telling them what to expect over this inauguration. We made great friendships out of this that I think will breed loyal guests for the future. And, you know, that's what we're all about, right? You can say, you know, I love people. I always hate when somebody says that to me in an interview process, but in essence, if you're going to do this for a living, it's pretty important. And when people love you back, that loyalty, that movement, especially in an independent hotel environment where you don't have this brand funnel of money coming to you at all times, it pulled at the heartstrings in a lot of ways. So it's a good thing.
So what do you hate more? The people comment, or when they say my biggest fault is I care too much?
Yeah, you know, that'd be I'd have to flip a coin there, Glenn. I'm going to listen for that now.
Right. All right. So let me give my unsolicited inauguration story. My favorite experience that I had was when Bill Clinton was inaugurated in January of '93. I was in my senior year at the University of Maryland. My final year was my 5th year, actually. I was a little bit slow getting through school. They had the most amazing party the whole week. All these tents were set up, and I got to see Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead play with Woody Harrelson at 10 a.m. in the morning, right in front of the Air and Space Museum. And then that was followed by Blues Traveler, and then some more hippy dippy jam bands that I like. What an incredible experience that was for
Absolutely.
me.
You know,
I loved it.
Yeah. Let's, you know, as you say, President Clinton, returning to some of those times would be great too, because I don't remember more prosperous times in the country, that's for sure.
It's funny you should say that, Mark, because last night we were having dinner. I've got 16-year-old twin boys, and they obviously have a very different coming-of-age experience than I did in the 80s and 90s, right? So we were explaining to them about the Clinton administration. Regardless of how you feel about politics, it was the most peaceful, calm, easiest time, I think, to be someone in their 20s. I felt very blessed to be at that point in my life.
It was a prosperous time in many, many ways. And, you know, it will happen again.
It will.
You know, sometimes you have to hit a low to take it to, you know, to find that sky's the limit, you know? So it's,
yep.
You know, we're looking forward to it. It's all about June forward. And, you know, I mean, we're on the right track. You know, it's, I can remember, you know, for the longest time, I was in Austin, Texas, on 9/11 at a hotel in Austin. And I can remember 9/11 hitting, and we're rushing to get the AV department to put up a television somewhere so we could stay ahead of the news, so we could inform our guests, as opposed to letting them leave the hotel and go to an airport that they were never going to be able to get on a plane.
Right.
And as I'm talking to you in the background, I'm looking at a 60-inch screen in my office with the inaugural on it, much for the same reasons, right? Just to follow what's going on in the city. What can we inform guests of? Is anything bad going to happen? But there's so many tremendous things that, you know, the lighting around the reflecting pond last night at the Lincoln Memorial and the reflecting pond was just amazing. And the city, used and turned on all their amber lighting in honor of all the victims of COVID. But we'll get through it, and it'll be a great celebration, I'm sure, for some time to come. There is a rumor that there will be an inaugural celebration over the 4th of July.
Oh, wonderful.
So that could be interesting for DC. I mean, from going to the University of Maryland, a lot of people will just jump in their cars and go to the beaches. It's not like the celebration that perhaps it used to be, but I think it would be a great time and really tie in nicely to celebrating our independence as a nation and maybe some much needed growth as a nation too.
Speaking of beaches, I remember back in the 80s and maybe even preceding that, the Beach Boys would play every single year on July 4th. And it was a really big deal.
Right.
And I loved the celebrations and how spirited it was. So one day I got to go see the Beach Boys, and then I got to go to the American Museum of History and go see an exhibit from MASH. I think MASH had just ended like 2 years before, and they had all the sets and stuff there. It was like really cool.
No, Glenn, you said you went to the University of Maryland. Are you from this area originally?
No, I'm from Long Island, where I happened to move back to after living in the city for 20 years. But I always said if I didn't live here, I would live down in that area. It is one of the most incredible, dynamic, culturally relevant areas. And I also liked it because it was a little bit more low key than living up here in New York.
When is may I ask when the last time you were in DC was, by any chance?
Yes, we did some live shows just 2 months ago or so. We did one at Hotel Zena and one at Ray's. And I got to tell you, Mark, we've got to come when things open up a little bit more now. I'd love to come down there and do some live broadcasts with you down at Havoc.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you. I'll show you the new Skylar, basically 20,000 square feet that we've added lighting and
beautiful
and high tech stuff that's amazing. It'd be great for you to do a show out of there. We'd love to have you.
It would be awesome. Now, before we wrap up, and I know audience, we're running a few minutes late, but this has been such a great conversation. And Mark, I really appreciate how open and honest you've been about all of these struggles. Tell us a little bit about your hotel. What can we expect when we stay there? What's the vibe over there?
Okay, well, we there's two things. We like to do things differently, and we truly believe in the total hotel experience being experiential. So, this hotel will celebrate its 100th birthday in 22. So it is historical. It sits on the corner of 14th and K, which I can tell you is the best corner in the city. We added a restaurant last June called Via Sofia, which Tom Setzma from the Post has ranked very, very highly. Colin Clark, our executive chef, is a James Beard presenter. So that was doing very well. Then COVID hit, so we'll have to ramp that back up again.
Hey, look at that.
The new space and what it will mean to the hotel, we were the first hotel to do a partnership with the museum, and we created 3 experiential suites. We work with the actor Alan Cummings to do a Rise Up Stone exhibit with the museum. Then we were the first hotel to get the entire props from a television show from HBO called Veep. So we created a suite called the Veep Suite, which it's a historical experience, kind of satirical as well, and politically charged, that I think you would find interesting. And most recently in January, Samantha Barry, who is the editor-in-chief of Glamour magazine, curated the woman's suffrage suite for us at the hotel. It's done in the colors of suffrage and really is reflective of the woman's right to vote in that celebration. So we try to tie in our history to experiences, and our partnership with the museum and curating suites that become museum-esque has been truly wonderful. So I really do think we hit on all points. On top of that, it's just a very, very genuine and caring staff that looks forward to hosting guests on a regular basis. Highest occupancy of any hotel that I know of DC. We're not the largest, 318 rooms. We're adding 8 new guest rooms, but annual occupancy of 93% that we're very proud of.
That's amazing. Ever get to meet Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's from this area originally as well.
Really?
Yeah, she's from Bethesda.
Right. So her husband Brad Hall come around with her? Or is he
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm a stupid trivia geek. They met when they were both on Saturday Night Live in 80, 81 or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. She's had a good run in many a show, that's for sure, right?
Unbelievable. People in Hollywood hope to have one hit series, but to have one of the most defining series of all time, then go on to another successful series, and then go on to do Veep after that. Unbelievable.
Well, when you come in to do the shows, we'll put you in the Veep suite, because I think getting to know you as I have today, I think that would it would really strike a sweet spot for you.
It
So
would.
look forward to it.
Thank you so much. Mark Driscoll of the Hamilton Hotel. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Glenn. Continued success to you, okay?
Thank you. And right back at you. Wow. What a great show that was today. Again, congratulations to President Joseph Biden Jr. And to all of you, thank you so much for being here again, helping us build this community and listening to our stories every single day. I got to tell you, I was really moved by what Mark Driscoll is going through. The fact that he has to deal with so many different challenges. And just when you feel like you're up against the ropes and you're getting punched out and you're going to have to give up, no, he finds the resilience within him to become even more strong, to really be able to take his team, to have that positive spirit about the future. I love that about him. Thanks to Biran Patel and Cecil Stanton for doing all they can to help make sure that all of the needs of the hotel industry are taken care of right over there on Capitol Hill. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. Remember, subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. And of course, subscribe to our audio podcast feeds at No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, and all of that kind of good stuff. Oh yeah, don't forget, share our YouTube videos. Our YouTube video numbers, they stink. We got great numbers on the LinkedIn, on the Facebook, all of that kind of stuff, but I really want to build that YouTube audience. Please help us do that. Share the shows, spread the love of this community. Guys, you absolutely rock out there. Tomorrow, we're going to do a great show all on diversity and hospitality. We're going to really get into an interesting debate, because we're not going to do the same old type of thing. We're going to actually get to the issue of whether minority groups are actually helping minority groups find success in this business. That's going to be a not missed conversation. Sorry, Anthony couldn't be able to make it here today. Thanks for dealing with me alone. Love you guys. Thanks so much. Remember, you've got one life, so